Every year, the NBA puts out their GM Exec scout survey results on the free agency or offseason moves, and the results from the survey this year came in just a couple days ago, and because the Bulls were heavily represented in some of the results, and some of these were quite baffling to me, and I'll get into why, as it just goes back to this continued doubt and disregard for the Bulls, and as I've said before, I like it, let them sleep on the Bulls, it will be more motivation for this team going into this upcoming season. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So I always find these survey results from executives interesting because they're literally voting on moves and teams that they are in direct competition with. And naturally, they're going to be biased, especially if a move involved their team, whether they were on the buying or selling end. So because of that, I always kind of take these surveys with a grain of salt, but be that as it may, because the Bulls were involved in some of these, let's react to this and call out some of the irrational takes on the matter that came from these GMs and executives. And I want to start with what they felt was the worst move this offseason. And of course, right at the top, tied for first in results was for DeRozan coming to the Bulls, which was tied to the New Orleans Pelicans offseason overall. Now, I do agree with the fact that the Pelicans and their offseason as a whole probably was worse when you factor in what they got in return for Lonzo Ball and had to settle on Devontae Graham and really didn't do much of anything to build around Zion Williamson. But aside from that, the Bulls being at the top of the list, I think what shocked me more was the fact that nowhere on this top 5 worst moves was Chris Paul's contract. And listen, I know that I'm in the minority in this opinion because Chris Paul had such a great season last year and literally took the Suns from being one of the worst teams in the league to the NBA Finals. But you paid the man $120 million fully guaranteed for 4 years. 4 years, $120 million. Did they forget that the man is 36 years old and will be 40 by the time his contract expires? Did they forget that guards, unlike centers, don't age as well in the NBA in terms of their longevity? Did they forget that Chris Paul does have a history of injuries? Like, I get that they had to do this because otherwise you risk losing Chris Paul. And he, for nothing really. And you have to reward him for the success that he brought to that team. And you knew he was going to be getting other competitive offers after such a great season that he had. But they really have to give him 4 years. I thought for sure the best Chris Paul would get was 3 years, $100 million, which even that is an overpay in and of itself at his age. But at least it's manageable. Now you're locked into this agreement for 4 years. And let's be honest, the last 2 years of the deal are probably going to be a bad contract for the Suns. Now, I heard from Kenny of King of the Fourth Quarter and Kenny for Real talking about this, comparing it to some of the deals that you would see in baseball, where teams give players these massive 10-year long agreements, knowing full well that they're probably only going to get a good 6 to 7 years of actual star quality talent. But they're okay paying the 10 years and having the contract not be so great on the back half of that deal because it was worth keeping a superstar level player and having them locked into the team for all of those years. And with all due respect for Kenny, because I actually love his content and his basketball knowledge is off the charts, far superior to mine. But the difference here is that Major League Baseball doesn't have a salary cap. If there was no salary cap in the NBA, then yeah, a contract like this really wouldn't matter. It doesn't hurt the team in their future because they don't have to work around a salary cap, luxury tax, all of that. It just hurts the owner's pocketbook. But in the NBA, a contract like this can majorly constrain your future, paying that kind of money to a 36-year-old. Anyway, I know that was a bit of a rant. I just find it shocking that no one else sees this as one of the more poor moves made in free agency. But anyway, let's talk about the Bulls signing DeRozan as one of the worst offseason moves in the NBA according to these results. And I can't put this into context unless I show you what came in as the best move this offseason. And get this, the overwhelming favorite as the best move made this offseason was Kyle Lowry going to the Miami Heat. Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat. Now, I'll admit, I actually wanted Lowry on the Bulls. I've said that before, but not at the price for which the Heat paid at $30 million a year at his age. So somehow, the league felt that giving a 35-year-old point guard a 3-year, $90 million deal who was injured a fair amount last season and didn't even have as good of a season as someone like DeMar DeRozan did, they felt that this was the best move made this offseason while giving a younger DeRozan a cheaper 3-year, $80 million contract coming off one of the best seasons of his career, mind you. That was the worst deal of the offseason in their view. What the hell kind of logic is that? Look, I'm not saying that the DeRozan deal should be considered one of the best moves of the offseason. I actually get the skepticism around the deal, but it is a lot for DeRozan at age 32 and the fact that the Bulls had to give up a lot for him through a sign and trade. But it's without a doubt not the worst offseason move, not even the top 5 worst moves of this past offseason. That's someone who clearly, if they feel that way, doesn't understand the value of DeMar DeRozan and what he brings to the Bulls because, oh, he can't shoot threes, he can't space the floor. Again, that's not as important when you have plenty of other outside shooters around him, which the Bulls will have. Just ridiculous to claim that this was the worst signing this offseason, but have Kyle Lauri, his deal, be the best free agency move. You can't make this stuff up sometimes. Also, Jalen Suggs, the second best offseason move to the Magic? Like what? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Suggs, and that's a really good pickup for the Magic at number 5 when he was expected to go earlier, but of all the moves made in this offseason, Suggs was the number 2 best move. And as if the logic wasn't already bad enough, they have the Bulls as a whole team tied for 3rd as the best offseason move. A team that had the worst offseason transaction for an individual player had the 3rd best offseason for a team as a whole. Makes a ton of sense, right? These execs are just hitting on all of these in the logic department right now. Everything is making sense. Like I said, guys, let the league sleep on the Bulls. I'm not saying the Bulls are going to be contenders. I've said that multiple times, but come on now. The level of disrespect for this Bulls team and what they've been able to do this offseason and the media's expectations of them going into this upcoming season after hearing some saying that the Bulls wouldn't even make the play-in, and now execs claiming that the DeRozan deal was the worst move made this offseason when they're claiming that Kyle Lauri was the best move that was made. Is straight up ridiculous, and I personally can't wait to go back to all of these predictions and survey results towards the end of the season just to see how bad they actually were. I hope anyway, otherwise we as Bulls fans are gonna have to eat our own words. Aside from that though, non-Bulls related, Giannis and KD tied for best player in the league, which I can see this. I personally think that Giannis is the best player in the league as it stands right now, and I probably would have even said that the prior season, despite LeBron winning a championship. I think LeBron is still a top 5 player in the league and really was the best player in the league for a good part of 12 to 13 seasons before that, but it's pretty clear now that Giannis's time is here with how dominant he has been on both ends of the floor, and now to cap it off, winning a championship and putting up a 50-piece in Game 6 of the NBA Finals and taking home the Finals MVP. And then also doesn't help that LeBron is 36, he's going to be 37 this upcoming season. Eventually he's going to decline, guys, it just has to happen. So really it's Giannis's to lose at this point in terms of being the best player in the league, in my view. Anyway, this is kind of a shorter video. I just wanted to rant a bit of the ridiculous nature and the logic that the results of this survey produced from executives and scouts around the league. I want to know what you guys thought though, and what you saw in these results, what stood out to you. Maybe you're seeing it for the first time in this video of the actual results that came out, but let me know in the comments either way. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.